Next item up is the Ad hoc Transportation Committee. There's a motion for it to be approved.
So, well, can I add one?
Yeah, with an
So-
amendment to
Right,
that.
so I would second it with an amendment that includes 2 board members, because I think that was the intent. So it would be 2 community, 2 parents, 1 student, 3 school-based, 2 operations department, and 2 board members. So are you good with that change?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Get Kevin, Chris, real quick.
Okay.
I
Kate did, then I seconded.
Kevin and Chris wanted to, I know they had issues with this.
Well, they should be in here.
They sure should be.
So, all
Well,
right.
I was going to say, the chair selects the board committee members, so why don't you go ahead and put that on the record while we vote?
Most of can be.
All right, so we have a motion
Well, I would
to-
say that we pull the vote and put the board members in the motion.
Say it again, Cindy, I'm sorry.
They're talking about the committee, and they want to vote to create a committee, and then later figure out who the 2 board members are. And I just asked the chair, since his job is to appoint them,
Right.
why don't we go ahead and appoint it on the record?
Oh, we're voting, okay, sorry.
I have a question before we vote. What's the purpose of dissolving the committee and creating an ad hoc committee?
It's listed.
It's listed next. You have to get past the screen to learn the answer to that.
What's the
No,
purpose of dissolving what?
Mine just has, what I have on my screen now won't allow me to do anything else other than vote on the ad hoc transportation committee.
Right, it keeps popping it up, so you can't read the
Right, so-
background.
So just move your box over.
Move your box up.
Click, drag.
See?
No, just need to move it over.
See?
So I take it that we're not going to select the committee members or the board members?
Yeah, we
Ask your
will.
question.
Yeah, he wants to ask a question.
Or can you ask your question?
Yeah,
the-
minute you go.
My question again is, what is the purpose of creating or dissolving the committee and creating an ad hoc committee in its place?
It's listed.
I can't.
Well, he can't get to
I
it.
can't.
So the-
Comparative
Call the
advantages
question
of
and
the
pop the
district
square up, we can no longer read it if we
private
didn't vote yet.
transportation.
Okay, well, it's in,
Okay.
so the reason for convening it is to analyze comparative advantages of a district-owned versus privatized transportation system, explore transportation options utilized by districts similar to CCSD, and recommend the best course of action for CCSD for 2020-21. If continued privatization is recommended, review RFP from previous bid process and suggest modification for the 2019 solicitation, complete ad hoc committee task, and bring a recommended course of action regarding CCSD's student transportation system to the full board by June 2019, is the reason for forming the ad hoc committee.
Okay, for everything you just said,
Yep.
since I created the committee, I have all that information in my possession. That's why the ad hoc committee years ago transformed from an ad hoc transportation committee to a committee of this board, for those same reasons you just cited, right? And so, years ago, when we were having some issues with some drivers in Durham drivers were coming before us to complain about their relationship with their company. Of course, we just hired Durham, we could not facilitate in that regard, but because it got so contentious, an ad hoc committee was formed. 2 ad hoc committees was formed, I might say, at 2 different times. As a result of those 2 ad hoc committees, subsequently, there were also, at the time, Mike Bobby had a transportation consultant come in and give us direction on how he believed the district should move forward if we were to continue our services with Durham, and/or if we were to purchase our own bus fleet and move forward in that direction as well. So, after hearing what you just read, Kate, I am a little confused that we are not going back to a process that we already came from.
Well, I think my impression is some things have changed since then. I think that was what worked then. I think we've all agreed that our board's focus for the next year or 2 has got to be extremely focused on student achievement, and we have issues, and so that having an ad hoc transportation committee with some folks who are not on the board and can focus on that and then report back to us is the direction that is being recommended.
I have a question.
So are you saying the Transportation Committee be formed
Ad hoc.
outside of the Operations Committee?
Ad hoc committee.
The ad hoc committee, yes,
So,
It's an ad hoc transportation.
yes, an ad hoc.
Right.
right,
But right now that falls under the Operations Committee, right?
in committee of the whole, yep.
So this is ad hoc for how many days?
I'm
An ad
sorry.
hoc for how many days?
6
Through
months.
6 months.
For 6 months. So for during that 6 months' time, the transportation would not come under the Operations Committee?
Well, if.
This
Re-
committee will convene and will have these discussions on these bullet items that are listed.
Reverend
And
Cox,
At the end
At-
of the ad hoc
at
committee.
the
So in
ad hoc
6
committee.
months,
Mhm.
that will come to us, not,
Right, so what my confusion is, okay, so the bullets on the screen, the beat, not transportation report. Let's see.
No, those are separate, yeah, right,
No.
those are separate. The other recommendation that you have under policy BDE is that we delete the operations committee from the committee of the whole. So that's an action for the board meeting.
So that'll be a standalone committee, is what you're asking for?
The ad hoc is a standalone ad hoc, but it goes away once they've resolved and done those 4 things or 5
I
things.
understand, I understand.
the operations goes away, period, right?
Correct.
So then,
And so those issues that, whatever the reason you had an operations committee, and I don't know who I'm asking this question of, but for whatever reason, the operations committee was originally formed, those issues that were under the auspices of the operations committee will now be addressed by the committee of the whole?
Well, it could depend,
No,
like,
no.
the transportation pieces will be delved in some of the ad hoc committees, some of it will be in Friday updates, just reports will be in Friday. And I think anything that's action-oriented, required action would go to audit and finance, and then come to the committee of the whole.
so let me say this, Ms. Darby. before you
No,
speak
I
on-
don't believe everything that is operations should go to audit and finance
No.
and then come to us as an up or down vote.
And it shouldn't be as a.
Unless that's what y'all decided y'all want, then tell us how you think it ought to operate, and then let us decide how it should look.
Well, and how it operated before we had, the operations committee as a part of the committee of the whole.
It went straight to the board.
Yeah. So let me,
Well, that's-
but
So
on
then let's
operations.
change the policy about how things go straight to the board agenda.
All right, well, that's not what's on
I
here
know,
today.
that's because y'all chose not to do that.
No, we tried to do that.
It's just one statement.
yeah.
that
With all
I
due
mean-
respect, just for clarification, before the operations committee was formed, all of my information went through audit and finance. Everything I
But when
presented
it
went to audit
did,
and
it
finance.
didn't come out of audit and finance on consent agenda. We were allowed to discuss it in
But
a
it-
committee
Yeah.
format.
My only point is it did go to audit and finance.
And I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't know how y'all can sit up here and forget that 3 years ago, when we lost $18 million, every report we got said it was because we weren't keeping up with the operations.
Didn't know, that's right.
Well,
We
so
just
this-
can't do that.
But this action right now that's in front of you is to create an ad hoc transportation committee. That's the action, the motion that we have in front of you.
All right, so let me finish my point that I'm getting at. You're talking in general about a $500 million overall budget. You know, capital, transportation, buildings, you're talking a whole lot of money. And
But
for
I
us,
do think, Chris, that's not the conversation for the ad hoc transportation
Yeah,
committee. We
it's
probably
not.
need to
The
get
other one
past
is a
this.
all right,
policy.
we can get past this, all right, then we'll come back to it. But still, it leads to less fiscal oversight by the board to really monitor
Absolutely.
its money and make wise decisions
Education.
on what we're spending on transportation and in the community, and to know how to put the rest of the dollars in the classroom, because the board may get an update, or may be told, when you get an update, you're told one side of the story that you need, that they want you to know. But when you have part of the meeting, part of the process, you get the full picture. And then you have input, and you can ask questions. So that concerns me.
You do know that this ad hoc committee is only for 6 months and will report back to the board.
And that's too long.
Operations.
Then you're still doing away with operations.
And that's too
So what
long.
I'd like to do is let us call the question on the ad hoc committee.
The question has been called. I mean, the question's up there for you guys to vote on.
I see.
Later.
Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, two different things.
The motion to convene and move the 10 representatives to follow.
So,
But Eric,
please also note,
The motion doesn't
Please.
mention time.
It sure doesn't. That's
yes,
what I was
it's 6 months.
But
Don't say that,
it
maybe in the
doesn't
motion.
mention.
Can we,
That says, at the last bullet
That's part of the
says,
problem. You have
Hold
motions
on.
written on one format
motion
that has
doesn't
some
say that.
information, motions written in the board docs that has different information. We really need
That
to get
motion
our
doesn't say
our
that.
communication
okay,
string
the
correct.
motion says, I'm referencing to the background discussions, I guess what I'm referencing to. It does say,
But the board
that-
action
Okay,
item is
so-
the only
So,
record.
Rep.
Hang on,
Mack,
hang on,
would you
hang
be
on.
okay adding until June?
just,
What you would do
just,
is you would put in
now,
the
hold
motion
one
what the
second, Cindy, hold one
transportation
second.
committee
Hold one
is.
second.
Is this still
So-
my committee or not? I can't remember. I don't know.
Well, I'm trying to answer your question is what I'm trying to do, because you asked the question about when or how long will this process last? And I'm telling you, the background information, it says through June 2019.
I
So,
get that.
now, your question to me was, it's not in the motion which I made and was seconded by Kate.
Correct.
So you're asking for the motion to be updated to a friendly amendment to include the completion of this ad hoc committee? Is that what you're saying?
I'm asking you to make a motion that you want us to vote on. There are two separate motions currently.
Okay, well,
One-
that's the motion, but if you're asking me to add the completion, then
Because
that's different.
I can't vote on, or we can't vote on a motion that doesn't have a time constraint, but the one you're reading from says it does, but the one we're voting on does not have it mentioned, so.
Okay, got
either-
it.
Either who made the motion or who seconded the motion needs to somehow clarify the timeline on this particular motion.
So
Or-
Julie, if you can,
If-
in the motion that in the background information and discussion gives a recommendation that this student transportation system to the full board be completed by June 2019. That's the information that's listed. If you can put that in the motion, please.
Mr. Chair, if I
As a friendly
could.
amendment.
Yep, I
The-
agree.
This is the only public record. What the background information is not available to the public. First off, it's not published, so they have no idea what we're creating. However, rather than recreate it in the motion, you could add to the motion per the board document recommendations, and that then puts in the public record this information.
Okay, don't have a problem with that. Julie, do you have that? Yeah. So just for clarification, so everyone can be happy and we can make sure that the public does have the transparent information to know exactly what we're doing, that we include that per the board background information, that the completion date be June 2019.
You have to make sure that this is in the minutes.
Julie's putting it in the motion right now.
And the completion date will be June of 2019?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm only waiting on Mr. Miller if he wants.
Who?
Mr. Miller,
Oh, you waiting on me? I'm sorry.
she's added that.
Oh, okay.
And that is what will be in the minutes.
Okay, also, if,
To
Mr.
include
Miller,
the-
if you can allow me the opportunity, yeah, so if there's any board members that's willing to serve on that committee, if you could please let me know, according
We
to
need-
policy.
Go ahead and appoint them now, so we can get the, I mean, that, every other committee you have on this agenda, you're appointing them in public at the meeting.
Right.
Why not do this one the same way?
So, again, if there's any board members that's,
That's your choice.
if there's any board members,
Ad hoc committee, not but
yeah,
that's your choice.
by policy, she's referencing the policy. So if there's any board members that's willing to serve on this committee,
So where's Priscilla?
it's two. Priscilla's, I don't know. Is there anyone willing to serve?
She vote.
I'd be happy to serve. You may even go find yourself. I'd be happy to serve.
Okay, sir. Can we get another volunteer? We're trying to be inclusive.
I can't.
Mr. Hollenshed and Ms. Darby will be the two board representatives.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Oh, okay. Next, we have our transportation report, October 2018. Mr. Jeff?
Just an update on the driver count, they're at 357 now, as of last week, for 366 routes. And just some data on the Deer Park. Deer Park's been on our radar for a couple of months. We've lost instructional time for the month you have your notes on for October. The majority of that time was on two dates, on October 2nd and the 30th. So 12 buses were late on those 2 days because of an accident in the North Charleston area. So that really is the meat of that particular.
That's that road in that intersection.
Then we also took North Charleston High School off the list. They were number one the month before. We were able to troubleshoot some stops, and move some stops around. It was really an overcrowding issue, and they dropped back off the radar, with late buses at that location.
Good job.
Question. How many vacant slots do we still have for bus drivers?
So they currently have 357 drivers for 366 routes. They should be right around,
9.
right around 400 drivers to be up to contract standards of 110%.
So we're withdrawing funds for that?
Sir,
So are we withdrawing funds for that?
we are still withholding 10% of the contract.
Question. I understand that we're paying $15 an hour, correct?
We're,
They are.
if you come in, yes, they start you at $50 an hour, yes.
What is the normal trend in the market now in Charleston? 'Cause we had this discussion last year when we worked on this, and I told you then, you remember that the market trend was gonna be $17 an hour. So I'm hearing that's what it is now. So is that probably part of the problem? Because I'm hearing Dorchester County's having that problem, and Berkeley County's having that problem. So I'm wondering if it all kind of works together.
I can tell you from a driver count perspective that, yes, Dorchester County is below 100% right now also. And Berkeley County is about 40 drivers short, 30 to 40 drivers short of 100% for their particular county. I met with their directors last week, just to see where they stood also.
So
So their pay though, in general to hours, they pay less money
Than
per
we do.
hour. Their pay scale is less than Durham's is, from a straight money to money numbers.
So the commercial route now is it, what I'm hearing is trending about $17 an hour?
I know, the only one I'm familiar with is, I think Carter went up to 16 and a half, somewhere around there, like they recently upped their pay. I'm not as familiar with, I mean, we've read the newspaper, at least for me in the last month, the big thing that stood out for me was the truck driver, shortage. That they're currently also,
Yes.
They're having it too?
competition for us in general, is one of our competitors, and they're having a shortage themselves.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? That being none, next is, 6C, capital projects report for October 2018.
Yes, I'd like to present the report for October 2018. The 2016 through 2022 capital building program, our August sales tax collections were $665,000 below the 2% in our cash flow projection. The expenditures for the 2017 through 22 building program, Phase 4, were $6.9 million. And for the 2010 through 2016 capital building program, Phase 3, the expenditures were $1.2 million. And as always, our fixed cost of ownership fiscal year 19 program continues.
Is that the normal trend projection of the income of what was projected with the 2%? Is that?
It's been below the 2% for the past 2 months, but overall, the entire program has been trending about 3.5% as a program. It's just a few months dip, a few months are high, but our overall average for the program to date is 3 to 3.5.
So for the year we're above, For those 2 months, we're behind, and traditionally, those 2 months have been behind as well, which, again, it maps up with what we've experienced the last couple of years.
So I don't have a question, but just because, again, this is money, and money pays for education. I think somebody had some issues with reallocations and why we ask about them. Pages 8 through 14 on this report show you the number of reallocations done for a building program that started in 17.
What are those pages again?
11 through 15 is what I've got, 11 through 14. And there was over 175 for the prior one, but it looks like we're on track to double that for this one, and the project's only started in 17.
So you made that note, Ms. Coates, so what are you referencing to when you say that? I mean, because we.
That's a lot of money moving around. I don't think we should be approving it, but I don't think we should ignore that's an awful lot of money moving around after the budgets have been set. And to be said, I don't think it's a big, important issue, but I don't think it's absolutely not something the board should be aware of.
Should not be?
Right, and at the last meeting, I asked about this, and the very answer was, well, what does this have to do with education? Why are we talking about this? There's 150 of them here.
Make a comment?
Yes, please do,
So-
because, I mean,
So this represents hundreds upon hundreds of projects in which a budget is established before the project is designed. Inevitably, in every project that we do, that ranges from $100 to $100,000 projects, there is a change.
Well,
up or
except these
down.
are just the capital, this is the
Capital
Winston
maintenance.
sales tax.
Right, capital maintenance projects. We have very small capital maintenance projects, we have larger capital maintenance projects. So these aren't the 30 or so construction capital projects.
So are the reallocations starting on page 13? Wouldn't
Right.
those be the capital maintenance reallocations?
May I?
Go ahead, Joyce.
On page 13 is the capital maintenance, $10 million that is part of what we borrow each year. That is on the report on page 13.
So the ones above have the capital programs and the capital maintenance and the 1722 1-cent sales tax,
And the technology upgrades are also
which is
included.
in the 1-cent sales tax. It's all the
Ma'am.
same pot of money.
Yes, ma'am.
does that answer your question?
I didn't have a question.
Well, does that answer you? Well,
But, thank you.
and you're absolutely correct. You did not have a question, but you made a comment, and, but then you followed up with pointing out, referencing to certain pages, so, but nevertheless, Mr. Miller?
With no more questions, Operations, sadly, Transportation Committee and the Operations Committee.
Where's
All
the
right,
phase
next
3?
item, looks like it's taking off from here.
Right, so
We'll start.